Thank you. The next item of business is a members' business debate on motion 2911 in the name of Ruth Maguire on online pimping. This debate will be concluded without any questions being put, and I would ask those members who wish to speak in the debate to please press the request to speak buttons now. And I call on Ruth Maguire to open the debate. 7 minutes, please, Ms Maguire.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Today I'm calling for three things: that the Scottish Government urgently outlaw online pimping, that traffickers and exploiters are held to account with the full force of our criminal justice system, and that comprehensive support and exiting services for women advertised and exploited via pimping websites is provided. I'd like to begin by thanking colleagues from Labour, the Conservatives and the SNP for supporting my motion and enabling this debate to go ahead, and thank everyone who's contributing today. I'm grateful to UK Feminista who supported and facilitated the inquiry, and to all those who took part. I also wish to thank those who have provided briefing materials and feedback for today, but particularly a model for Scotland. I'll declare an interest as a member of the steering group. However, it's the members of the group, the women who generously and openly share their lived experience and expertise, those who've exited prostitution, the frontline organisations who work with women, and the grassroots campaigners who do the real work. I'm grateful to know them and feel very privileged to work with them. Their courage and tenacity is awe-inspiring. In 2021, the Scottish Parliament's cross-party group on commercial sexual exploitation, which I co-convene with Rhoda Grant, conducted an inquiry into pimping websites. I think that most people in Scotland would be surprised that our country at the moment is a place where our current laws mean that criminal gangs profiting from the sexual exploitation of women can hide in plain sight using so-called adult services websites. A quick glance at one of those sites today would show you that in this city, right now, there are women who have been trafficked here, both from out with and within our borders, who are being subjected to abuse, violence and humiliation to satisfy the demand of a minority of men. And this is not just happening in Edinburgh, but right across the country. Scotland's laws on prostitution have not kept pace with technological change. As a result, commercial pimping websites, which advertise individuals for prostitution across Scotland, currently operate openly and freely. So the problem we face, Presiding Officer, is online pimping is legal and fuels sex trafficking in Scotland. Detective Superintendent Filippo Capaldi, Head of Police Scotland's National Human Trafficking Unit, told our inquiry, adult services websites are one of the main facilitators of trafficking for the purposes of sexual exploitation in Scotland and the rest of the UK, and we come across them quite commonly when we're dealing with trafficking inquiries, particularly involving foreign nationals. Pimping websites enable and incentivise sex trafficking and sexual exploitation. These websites, which host adverts for prostitution, expand the scale of sexual exploitation, enabling anyone on the internet to anonymously access women being advertised for prostitution. Websites are routinely used by sex traffickers, and there's no realistic way that the website operators can prevent this. Most prostitution advertising now takes place online, rather than on the street or in local newspapers. A small number of websites dominate this online advertising marketplace. These market-leading websites centralise and concentrate demand from sex buyers across Scotland. By placing an advert on one of these sites, trafficking gangs can quickly and easily advertise their victims to sex buyers across the country, as well as move their victims between different locations by simply altering the location information on their advert. Frankly put, these websites make the brutal business of sex trafficking easier and quicker for criminals. They do not deliver protection or security to the women being advertised on them. On the contrary, they typically openly display the phone numbers of the women being advertised, allowing anyone with access to the internet to immediately and anonymously access these women. There is also no way that website operators can identify if a woman is being advertised on their site, if she's being exploited by a third party, such as a trafficker or pimp. As Megan King, a survivor of prostitution, told our inquiry, when I was handed over to my first client, at which point I had no idea I was being sold into the sex trade, that client took intimate photos of me, some in my underwear and others more intimate and degrading. The underwear shots were then used as a profile picture on my adult work profile that my pimp created, without my knowledge or consent. There's no real way the website can verify that woman is the same woman that's then sold to a punter. In my situation, I believe that the pimp's wife took passport photographs under which all of the girls were then advertised. An inquiry by the UK Parliament's All-Parliamentary Group on Prostitution and the Global Sex Trade concluded that pimping websites are now core to the typical business model of sex trafficking. These websites have turbocharged the sex trafficking trade. The websites incentivise sexual exploitation by making it quick and easy for pimps and traffickers to advertise their victims to men who pay for sex. This online pimping is taking place on an industrial scale in Scotland, yet their operations fall through the cracks of our outdated prostitution laws, and website owners profit from this exploitation with impunity. The Scottish Government must, with urgency, get on with adopting laws against sexual exploitation that are fit for the 21st century. That requires making it a criminal offence to enable or profit from the prostitution of another person, tackling men's demand by criminalising paying for sex, and decriminalising and supporting victims of sexual exploitation. Presiding Officer, it's time to get serious about men's violence against women and girls in all its forms. It's time to put pimps and traffickers out of business. Thank you.